decades ago. I don't remember exactly when I was launched into space. I don't remember exactly why, but what I do remember is that I bought a box full of the best pop culture films and shows. The first week in space was great. But all went downhill when I went to dump my waste into space. I made a mistake and pressed the wrong button and opened the door to storage room A. My VHS box was launched into space. I went insane due to lack of entertainment and became the Contrarian. Decades later, my ship crashed onto Earth, and I finally got a chance to watch my favorite VHS tapes. When I was done, I was excited to learn that all of my favorite films have had sequels and spin-offs. Little did I know, I was about to go insane again. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth Contrarians Review. This one's a little bit slightly different format. It's more of an EFAP style video. Geez, I hope this doesn't.
So I just watched.
Okay, cool. It doesn't. Okay, cool. So, I was gonna review Andor today, with a friend actually, but our schedules didn't match up, and it was postponed to probably next week. And so I was just watching review videos, thinking of what I should review when I just for fun was watching Sheev Talk's Obi-Wan series reviews, and our opinions line up very closely, and I think he was absolutely right on his take on the Obi-Wan series. And so I was just looking through his videos for something else to watch, and I saw his Across the Spider-Verse opinion, and he thought that it was a great movie, and that kind of shocked me because, in my opinion, Across the Spider-Verse is like the last Jedi of the Spider-Man franchise. And I did a live stream on why. I broke down the original, or the first one, which I broke down the first movie and the second movie in two different live streams. So there's a lot of so my opinion is out there, but I wanted to react to this video and give my response to it, because I feel like we're on the same page with a lot of things, but it's very interesting when people that usually agree disagree on something. So I thought that would make for an interesting stream. All right, so actually I'm just gonna check the live stream real quick and make sure everything's going. All right, we're live. Okay, good. Everything is looking like it's going well. Okay, so, and then I also have, so I'm gonna react to his Across the Spider-Verse was unsurprisingly great video. And I was looking around through his content, and I saw this video, the problems with most Spider-Man fans, and I like 99% agreed with this video. There was just one point he brought up that I disagreed with. So I'll play that section when it's relevant when I'm reviewing this part. So with that said, let's EFAP this thing. All right.
So I just watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and I really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I just got out of the theater literally just now and raced home to record this. This is very off the cuff. So that being said, this opinion is subject to change, probably in either direction, but as it stands right now, I think it's not quite as good as the first one. I will admit that the first...
Okay, I wanted to, I gotta turn up my audio because I can barely hear this video real quick. I wanted to pause it right there and just respect that that circumstance that this is an off-the-cuff review, and it's been months since the film has come out, so um, I feel like people usually have like a Last Jedi response to a movie where you watch it and you come out and you just feel sick to your stomach. You're like, that was so freaking bad. And then other times you may have a like um, the Force Awakens response where like you watch it and you come out and you're just like on cloud nine, and then it's like months or years later that you start realizing that hopefully that's not copyright. Anyway, realizing that oh geez, this was actually a terrible film, and I was kind of just, you know, uh, hypnotized by member berries and all that. So, with that said, I want to respect that he just came out of the theater and that this is a fresh take. So, and I've seen the film twice, and it took me like a day to go through every scene and take down notes, and then I already reviewed this, so I'm pretty I've been doing a lot of research about this. So it's I'm just saying it's unfair. It's unfair. But with that said, let's move on. And it's cool that he says his opinion is open to change in either direction. So that's just I like where this guy's head is at.
First one is, in fact, my favorite film of all time, so there might be a bit of a bias there, but I think while the first one has its...
Okay, so my opinion, just to reiterate, my opinion on Across or Into the Spider-Verse is, I wouldn't say it's my favorite of all time, but very close. It's like definitely top 5, and it was my favorite Spider-Man film of all time for sure. After going through scene by scene and analyzing it, I've actually found some errors, some plot holes that kind of knocked it down to not even second. I would say maybe tied with. I said second in the live stream, but now it's kind of tied with No Way Home, which I know is a flawed film, but the plot holes in No Way Home didn't diminish my my opinion of it. So that's where I'm at.
Issues that I recognize, the ones in this one are slightly more frequent and prevalent, so I would probably give it to the first one. But that's not to say that this one isn't great. There's going to be some very slight spoilers here, but I'm going to try to keep it extremely light and vague because I want this to be a spoiler-free review. The stuff I'm going to give away is very mild. However, if you don't want anything at all spoiled for you, if you want to go in completely blind, I get it. Just click away. This video is not for you. Come back when you've seen it. What I will say is that Sony marketing is typically pretty bad for their movies. They usually give away the store basically in the trailers, but like there's a lot of footage that's been released for this film that I saw beforehand. There's a lot that I didn't see. Like usually when I'm reviewing a film that's still in theaters, it's pretty hard to find footage to use in my videos, but I really don't think that's going to be a problem here. I think that they released a lot of stuff and still managed to keep the plot of this movie extremely vague. I went in having no idea what was going to happen, and that was great. That being said, some of the things they did give away did give me pause. I will admit. There were a few...
I would say, he's definitely right that they didn't give away too much in the marketing of this. But I do think that one of the biggest problems in this film is there's just a ton of exposition done while they're swinging from point A to point B. So a lot of their trailers and whatnot, they just, muted the dialogue because they're wearing masks anyway, mute the dialogue and then play the music over the dialogue so it doesn't spoil any plot points. So a lot of the most of this film is just swinging and exposition and quipping. But anyway,
few bits from the trailers that I wasn't too thrilled by. I mean, there was that big controversy around Jessica Drew because she's pregnant and she's fighting crime and being Spider-Woman, and that was a criticism that I held potentially for this film before going in. I hoped that maybe the movie would address it and make sense of it. I don't really think it did. She does very little fighting in this movie, I'll say that, but she does still fight. She does still engage in combat while fairly far along in her pregnancy, so I take issue with that. I'll just say the same exact thing with Peter. As a matter.
All right, yeah, that's. I mean, she's a kind of like a B character. She's not like a part of the main cast. That's for sure. But I think that saying that she only got in one fight is a bit of a cope. Like that's. Yes, it was one fight. But she was driving a motorcycle and jumping and doing all that stuff. Landing, the impact of landing a motorcycle once you like jumped off of a building, that impact is, equivalent to, a kick or to the gut. So I think that was silly. And then also, even though she was a side character, it immediately character assassinates Miguel just right off the bat because he's in a tight spot and he needs backup. Who does he call to save his to help back him up in this Spider-Man fight? The pregnant lady. So it's like not only is it here, I'm gonna turn down my levels just a tad. Not only is it this woman being irresponsible, jumping into action while being pregnant, but Miguel calling for action and bringing a pregnant woman into a fight. And also that chase scene, she gets like whipped into like Miles like whips his web and sticks her to the side of a bus, and there's like a big slam, and it's ridiculous, and I cannot suspend my disbelief for this, even though it's a cartoon. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let me roll this back just a smidge.
So I take issue with that. I'll just say the same.
Another thing is like I kind of stayed away from the marketing materials just in case there were spoilers, but so I didn't catch the pregnancy thing, or it didn't really register to me. So yeah, if I saw that, I would probably be complaining before the movie even came out, but
exact thing with Peter, as a matter of fact, just so that's clear, there's no double standard here. He brings his own child into this place, and I don't really like that. He lies to MJ about it because she recognizes that that's not really a place you want to bring an infant. She's got to be, what, like 5 months old max? Because the film takes place a year and 4 months after the first movie. Miles directly says that at the beginning. I don't like that Peter brought her there. I especially don't like, there's like a scene where he is chasing Miles through this like factory setting. There's gears and shifts all around them. It's a very dangerous environment, and he's just got an infant with him, just strapped to his chest. No regard whatsoever for whether or not, like, there's a scene where he's chasing Miles on a fast-moving train with her still in his chest, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why is she there with you? So yeah, I'm not happy with Jessica Drew being pregnant and fighting, and I'm not happy with Peter bringing his own baby into this. I think insofar as character damage, Peter definitely took kind of a hit in this movie. The same can almost be said, I want to say, to a lesser extent with Miles and Gwen. There are a few moments where they're in like...
Okay, so yeah, I think that it was more than a hit. It was total character assassination of Peter Parker, and that's the biggest problem in this film. So yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. Like the he's chasing the bad guy, right, on the train, and that frame that you show, that zoom in frame that you showed, is the protect the baby's neck posture. Like I'm a father, so like when your baby's very small, they don't, the muscles in their neck aren't very strong, and so like he's cradling the back of her head and you do that just when you're holding it, like walking around, you would like swinging and all that stuff, you would never, like there's still a soft spot at that age. That like on the top of their head the skull hasn't formed fully. So and the brain is you don't want to shake the baby. You don't want to do any of that. And there's the excuse of like, oh, the baby has superpowers, but it's like, well, babies inherently are more vulnerable, no matter whatever they are. If it's an animal, like a leopard is like a very powerful animal, but a baby leopard is still vulnerable. So yeah, maybe the baby is, um, you know, stronger and more advanced than a regular human baby, but she's in a spider, like she's around like you said, machines and all that stuff. So anyway, it's just a bad thing overall. Let me roll that back just a little bit. And that's just and the biggest the reason why this is complete character assassination is because the previous film states that he's a good father. When interacting with Miles, he intentionally keeps Miles out of the action, away from, like, every step of the way. He says, you can't come to this, like, you're going to be lookout, you can stay and look out, but you're not coming in with me. And like there's this moment where like he realized, like, did you break this? And like, no, it broke. So he recognized, like, okay, this kid broke this thing and now he's trying to cover up and lie to me. He's just an immature teenager kid. I'm not gonna jump into a life-saving situation where already a Spider-Man died, so this is obviously a dangerous situation. I'm not gonna bring this 14-year-old into this danger, especially because he was probably Spider-Man around 14 or 15, and he was like, like like I'm here. I'm an adult and I'm Spider-Man. I can take if like if I knew how immature I was at the time, then anyway. And then but then Peter's not Peter's Miles' decision to disobey and help anyway shows his, agency and his personality and his sense of morality of wanting to look after and make sure his new Spider-Man friend doesn't die. So anyway, yeah, but that's just one side of his assassination is what it says about him being a father and the fact that he lies to MJ, which Spider-Man lies a lot to his loved ones to kind of hide his identity, but he doesn't, like, he's lying about the safety of his child to his wife. Like, that's like number one, like, no, don't ever do that. That's, yeah, he's a bad person. It's, yeah.
Like a combat situation, and they're sort of
Oh, I gotta roll this back a little bit.
kind of a hit in this movie. The same can almost be said, I want to say, to a lesser extent with Miles and Gwen. There are a few moments where they're in like a combat situation and they're sort of quipping, joking around, not really taking it too seriously, which, is typically something you excuse with Spider-Man because he quips. But like, there's a great criticism of the Amazing Spider-Man films, the second one where Peter is just basically goofing off with the Rhino while mass calamity and damage is ensuing across the city blocks, and he's not really seeming to give that much of a shit about all the people that could be getting killed. I think that's a fair criticism in that movie, and I think it applies here to a lesser extent. The scene that they show a lot in the marketing.
Yeah, agreed. That is a huge problem with the entire film is how many jokes there are and what they make into a joke. Like, they can't not joke. It's like at every single, like, I know there's like a modern thing where kind of started by Guardians of the Galaxy where you undercut dramatic moments with the joke, which when done right, it's like it's good, but this film just has way too many jokes. And not like you said, like not like normal Peter Parker quipping joke to the villain, like mocking his costume or whatever when they're fighting, but in the total wrong. Nothing is coming to mind for this film, but like the whole film was just one big joke. So if something specific pops into my mind, I'll mention it. But let's move on.
where the Spot is trying to rob this convenience store and Miles is just putting like a hot pocket in the microwave and not really seeming to care. Like, there's a guy chasing him around the store with a baseball bat. He could bash his head in for all Miles knows, and Miles doesn't seem all that concerned, and it's a little weird. The same with Gwen in the beginning of the film. She's fighting Vulture, and then she meets Miguel and Jessica and finds out about this spider society, and she's not all that concerned with stopping Vulture. People could have died. I don't think anyone did die. I think they did manage to save the day still, but I take issue with that. And just one last
Yeah, yeah, I thought I had something there, but agreed.
criticism I'd like to get out of the way before I start praising this movie to high heaven. I think the pacing was a bit sluggish at times, and there's a difference between sluggish pacing and slow pacing, I feel, because slow pacing can be good. You know, obviously there are plenty of slow burns out there that are great. It's just with these movies, the kind of energy that they're typically trying to get you to feel, you might want to pick up the pace just a little bit. There's just a few moments, a few scenes that maybe extend for a little longer than they should. There's even one moment where something is intentionally just really slow and Miles sort of points.
Oh yeah, that's, I want to add to that. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Shoot, I just got lost for a second. Oh, hopefully it comes back to me. Moving on.
Points it out, and Gwen's like, yeah, that's sort of his thing. And it's like, you're lampshading it.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
just because you're
Okay, and that is true. That's the. Let me let you finish the point, because I think you said it very well, and I will say my take on it.
you're addressing it and kind of trying to make a joke out of it doesn't necessarily mean lampshading. Miles sort of points it out, and Gwen's like, yeah, that's sort of his thing. And it's like, you're lampshading it, because just because you're addressing it and kind of trying to make a joke out of it doesn't necessarily mean that you fixed the problem. By that point, I was already pretty annoyed by it.
Yeah, that happens a lot, and that happens for jokes, and then also they're self-aware about character assassination as well. And I'll explain further why a little bit later. Because I think there's just a better moment to express that.
It, so that specific lampshade kind of pissed me off. I think the reason that they took their time with this is because this was planned out to be sort of a 2-movie story. This obviously ended on a cliffhanger, and there's still a lot of this story to wrap up in the third film, Beyond the Spider-Verse, and I'm looking forward to it. But I do think that you could, because I mean, the movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes, I want to say, so like, you could have cut out around 5 to 10 minutes, and the story would have been exactly the same.
Yeah, you could cut out you could cut down just like 50% of the jokes, cut them out, and especially the jokes that don't add to the story or provide any context, like all of it could go, and it'd be better. And some jokes like that are very detrimental to the characters, like the joke about the school lady who is recommending lying about the Morales family's immigration status and financial situation to, gain sympathy for from the schools. Like, that was a huge problem. And at some point, like, the mom says, yeah, like, whatever we need to do, we'll do it. And it's like, no, that's not funny. And the fact that they're not offended, and where they're like, oh, well, actually, we own property, so we're not really. And she's like, you are poor. Listen to me. He's like, they should be like, hey, man, don't lie on our behalf. Like, who are? Anyway, I went over this in my full podcast, so I won't reiterate the point. But a lot of jokes could be cut that would improve this film.
Just without all the lag, and you could have done the same exact thing. You still could have had everything happen in this movie that needs to happen to set up the next one, and I feel like you just cut out 5 minutes and you're good, you're golden. But yeah, those are all that I have by way of criticism. I don't want you guys to get me wrong here, because I absolutely adored this movie. I think that Miles has become probably my favorite Spider-Man after this. I already really liked him after the first one, of course.
Yes, but I know that's your personal that's your preference. Miles is your favorite Spider-Man. And I think that's kind of the point of this film. Um, I have a nephew who saw this film, and he was telling me about it, and he said, like, for Halloween, I'm gonna be Miles Morales, and my little brother's gonna be Peter Parker, but I'm gonna be Miles Morales, and uh, and I'll go into more to why that's. I feel like it's intentional, and we'll see why in a moment.
Verse. Again, favorite movie of all time. But Peter Parker was always my definitive Spider-Man, and that might change after this movie. I think it just his character work was so well done in this movie. It's kind of funny that, like, you got your nerdrotics, you got your, the fandom menace.
Okay, this is where we really start disagreeing. Okay, so I guess I would just go into it fully. So you said Miles's character work is really good in this film, and that's only due to context, I feel, because he's the only character with agency in this film. Every Spider-Man that appears in this film, which might be every iteration of Spider-Man ever, had character assassination due to, and I know that you're probably leaving this as a spoiler-free thing, that's probably why you didn't talk about it, but the canon event fully assassinates Peter Parker, and every character assassinates Peter Parker and every character in this film. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit why, because I think you're kind of suggesting it about the nerdrotic thing, which I think his take is, well, I'll just let you finish and I'll continue.
Who like to make jokes about how Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man. I think it's kind of hilarious how.
Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of frustration in fandoms where they feel like the new, like the classic heroes are just being replaced, and they're just, creating a new character and giving them the mantle, and so they're like, hey, no, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, like, stop trying to replace him, blah blah blah. And so and I just think that, and I know he's joking, but that way to argue your point leaves you open for ridiculous attacks of racism and all this nonsense. So I think this is how I argue it. I feel like I say Miles Morales is such an individual and a full character demonstrated in Into the Spider-Verse, that the fact that his superhero name is Spider-Man, a name that Peter Parker chose for himself, and like I just feel like it would add to his character and his agency of a character that he comes up with his own name, and he has different Spider-Man powers. He has the invisibility thing and the electric striking thing. So, and then also he has like a different aesthetic, like the spray paint on his suit, like it looks so like different and great, and yeah, and it's just I feel like he's so unique as a character that he deserves to be like he doesn't need to hang on to the IP of Spider-Man for people to love him. Everybody already loves him. So I think that him having his own superhero name would be a great idea, because he deserves it. And I think that's the way I argue it, is instead of like old man, don't touch me, Spider-Man, like that type of thing, like don't, hey, like and then kind of mocking Miles Morales. It's like he's Miles Morales, he's not Spider-Man, and like don't, it just leaves you open for attack. And I think that was kind of the point there's a little bit of trolling, even though that is his honest opinion. And I do think that that tweet and him tweeting like that got to the writers and created this mess of uh of the canon event. And the result of this is character assassinating every single spider person, um which is like the worst. It's like I can't, I don't know if it's worse than Luke Skywalker or equivalent. I'll have to think about it, but it's pretty dang bad. I think it's equivalent to what they did with I'll just say it's equivalent to what they did with uh Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. All right, let's continue.
Oh, that became a central point of the plot of this movie. Like, it's funny that Nerdrotic is basically the villain of this movie. But actually, what they ended up doing was really interesting with that concept. Like, again, I'm not going to spoil anything in this movie, but, like, what they choose to say about Miles' place as Spider-Man and in this Spider-Verse is not what I was expecting at all, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was very refreshing. That line from the trailer, I'll play it right now.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Absolutely brilliant in the film. Within
Yeah, when I saw that that in the trailer, when he said that line, I was like, what the heck is he referring to? And then seeing how it played out in the movie, I was like, oh, that's awful. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I think this is all about the there's two things. The canon event I don't like at all. I do like the idea that a spider, like someone was messing with portals and brought in a spider from, even though it feels kind of contrived, but I think if it's demonstrated that that the spot brought the spider in due to like researching superpowers, like it was a deliberate, like, oh, like, look at this, Spider-Man's our villain. What if we can learn from the technology and maybe become spider people ourselves? Like, I'm really looking forward to hearing the Spot's intentions behind that. So I do like that he was bit by the wrong spider, and the spider, the person that would have been the Miles that would have been Spider-Man in that other universe becoming the Prowler is just like, oh, that's so cool. It just makes sense because that's how he was. Like, he was hanging around his uncle a lot, so that would probably happen. The fact that his dad died in that dimension, like, all that I like all that I really like. But anything, like, any part of that aspect of it that is entangled with the canon event, I think is just completely awful and assassinates every version of Spider-Man. And let's see, I don't know if it's the right time to switch to this video, but let me just listen to, roll it back a little bit.
in the context of the film, great stuff. I cannot wait to see where his story ends. Aside from the beginning with
What the heck? Oh, that's because I'm going one frame at a time. Okay.
Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
absolutely brilliant in the film, within the context of the film, great stuff. I cannot wait to see where his story ends. Aside from the beginning, with the slight character damage I feel from her fight with Vulture, I think that the stuff they do with Gwen in this movie is great. Her relationship with her father, the police.
Okay, so this is another point that I disagree. I feel like and I'll go back to the canon thing a little bit later, but since you're talking about Gwen, like, Gwen was absolutely awful in this film. Her relationship with her Peter and the origin of how Peter died was completely, like, didn't involve her. Like, she didn't know that the lizard was Peter. She was shocked that when he turned. So her actions that led to his death of self-defense, where the lizard's attacking her, and then she pushes him away, and then the building falls down on, or that beam falls down on him. Like, that, all of those events had nothing to do with her relationship with Peter, where like the reverse of that, when Gwen dies, like Gwen dies because Peter tried to save her and made a mistake and accidentally broke her neck. Like, and so it's the death was because the goblin pushed her off the building. But Peter was also involved because he was inexperienced and saved her wrong. So, yeah, I just think that her her origin story and all of her trauma and everything, like I could understand her having trauma, but her like, yeah, it's just bad. Like it's not a tight story. Like she has there was no responsibility on her. Like she didn't know. And the whole the relationship with the dad, I completely disagree. Like in contrast to how Miles's relationship with his dad in the first film was excellent. Like even before he became Spider-Man, is probably when their relationship was the strongest. Just that teenage relationship with his dad, just back and forth, rebellious, but there's still love there. Like it's just such strong writing and funny where it's supposed to be funny. Like the dad's joking about coffee shops and trying to be hip and cool, where Miles is like, "Oh, she's your old dad." Like all that's funny, but it fits the moment like precisely. Like that's exactly what those characters should be saying to each other, regarding the context of the scene. But Gwen's dad asks her like, "Hey, how's the band going?" And she's like, "Good, I quit." And like, I don't like how sarcastic she is and snarky she is. And his response to that is nothing. He changes the topic to the Spider-Man hunt, because he thinks that she killed him, killed Peter, that she killed Peter. And that's a big problem. Like, if you want to show the relationship, show the dad's concern for the daughter, for his daughter, through, like, obviously, yeah, just showing. There's like a whole scene that's showing nothing. It's just showing a lack of communication between the father and daughter. And I think a lot of people were like kind of tricked into thinking that there was more going on there, because like the very unique, innovative art style of like the watercolor dripping warm and cool colors, when she swoops in and gives him a hug, and that kind of came out of nowhere too. Like, I don't know, and it's just yeah, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on, and the fact that actually, all right, I'm getting a little lost. I want to see where you're going with this, because I do want to talk about how the canon event affects Gwen, which it devastates her character. Like she's a bad guy. She's a villain, in my opinion. This is, yeah.
Police captain who's hunting Spider-Woman. I mean, you've seen it done in other Spider-Man movies, but I really liked it here, and I think this is the best version of that story we've gotten. It was
No. I totally disagree. I think even the very, very, like the hint of Miles's dad unknowingly hunting him was way better. The fact that he like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this emergency," and he like, his opinion on Spider-Man changes once he sees what he's up against. Like, even though it was just a small section, like it was so much better than all this stuff. Like it was a big nothing burger where the dad was like, "Oh, I'm gonna arrest you anyway," and then she reveals her identity. Right, I said that backwards. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna arrest you anyway." And yeah, it was just it's so bad. It's like we didn't know enough about his character to understand like why he would follow through with arresting his own daughter. And yeah, I feel like it was more about, like, this was made around 2020. Like, a lot of this I feel was tainted about, like, the current day politics opinions about uh police people, because yeah, um I just felt like it was really awful.
It's just really sweet. I really liked it. I want to see more with Gwen in her home life. Yeah, Gwen is great in this movie. She's
I want to see more about her home life, because they didn't explain any of it. They didn't go through any of it. It was just uh awkward silences, like long scenes of just awkward silences, and there's no subtext. There's no like she when she said, he's like, "Oh, did you how's your band going?" And then she's like, "Oh, I quit." There's no subtext. There's no subtext of the either of the characters saying something but meaning something else. Like, they could be talking about something that's completely unrelated to uh like, they could be talking about the band situation and the decision to quit, and use that as like an analogy about how they feel about each other. Like, it's just really poor writing, and they're they're just leaving a bunch of gaps and expecting that the audience will fill in the gaps with uh interpretation and whatnot. I just think it's really bad.
the second best character behind Miles, and it's not even a contest. It's not even fucking close. The visuals in this movie.
Yeah, well, that's your take. In my take, she's close to where Peter is in this film. Like, she's almost villain level. She's almost as bad as Miguel when it comes to her morality. She's complete and utter reprehensible, terrible person. So let's continue. And I'll explain more when I go into the canon event.
Are fucking spectacular. Like, some of the best eye candy that I've ever seen from an animated feature.
Yeah, visual manipulation. Like, it is the most innovative art in animation, and the first film paired that innovative art with the writing. Like, everybody's reaction to the first film was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful and so funny." And that's like the only thing that the writers heard those compliments, and that's the only things that they did. They're like, "Oh, let's make it funny." And artists like come up with as many ideas as possible to make it as beautiful as possible. Like, that's the only two things that this film has. And well, it has one thing. The visuals are beautiful, but the visuals are not backed up by the writing at all, because the writing informs the visuals, and the visuals inform the writing as well. So there's none of that back and forth play in this film. It's just all quippy nonsense.
Knocked it out of the park in every single capacity, and I could not be happier about that, because a lot of the great things about the first one was the art style, the different art styles sort of meshing together. This movie basically took that and just accelerated it tenfold. This movie is beautiful to look at, and I cannot wait to watch it again. Some of the other things that are worth mentioning that I would love to praise is Miles' parents definitely step up in this movie in terms.
I totally disagree with that. I think that the mom stepped up a little bit because she had more scenes, but I feel like the first movie was the best parent-child relationship story ever. Like, it's incredible and so relatable to teenagers having to navigate the world with their parents. Like, but this film, I mean, it was good. It definitely, I mean, the scene where they're interacting with him with the school teacher, that was straight up just character assassination of their entire family. So that scene was devastating, but most of the other scenes were like similar to the first one, but kind of dialed back a little bit. It was not as good. Let me see.
terms of character. Jefferson already had a pretty good arc in the first film. He was pretty well developed, I would say. He's better here, though. And Miles's mom,
No, he's not. He's worse. He's like kind of submissive almost. Like it kind of contradicts his character in the second film or in the first film where he's very logical and analytical and dutiful. Dutiful? I don't know if that's a freaking word. Anyway, yeah, and in this film, he's like, oh, okay. That's how I sum up his entire. That's my impression of him. Just, what are you saying? Like, that's all he ever was. I mean, I guess maybe he's like 15 though. I don't think he's going to college very soon. Like, maybe he's afraid of pushing his son away, so he's kind of subdued. And the way he interacts with his wife is like so much different in this film. Yeah.
She was fine in the first movie. She didn't really stick out to me because she was a side character for the most part. But like here,
that scene where she comforts Miles, like the small scene had a massive impact on the entire story. Like her catching, her recognizing that her son was terrified of something when her husband wasn't, and was just like, you have a commitment to that school, and he's like, hey, he's scared. And it just a character doesn't need a long scene to show that they're a great character. And then her speech of like, we don't run from things, Miles, like it was short and sweet, where her in this movie, you could have cut the scene in half. Like, you could have just like, she gives a long monologue, and it's not a good monologue, and it's a weird monologue towards the end. It's like, and you're gonna bring me cake that's not messed up, and it's like, I know that what they're saying, the subtext of that is like, you just come back and be responsible, and don't like recklessly just shake around a cake box, and using that as like subtext. But like, it was weird. It was like, and you're gonna bring me cake, and it's like, it just sounded weird, and it was a weird analogy.
She ended up being like really, really good. Like I like her a lot more now. But of course, if we're gonna talk about characters,
I don't think that it ruined her character. I don't think it made her worse, but the pace of the scenes were so slow, and it was so boring. Like, it wasn't contradictory to her character, I would say, but it was just long and really dragged out. Like, I saw that scene they had that full scene in the trailer, and when I watched it, I was like, geez, is this like the entire scene? Because this is like really long, and then it's not. It's like even longer. And like how the parents react to Gwen. Like, I want to talk more about Gwen. Like, Gwen calling them both by their first names, and the fact that she's so oblivious to realize, like, oh, the mom did not react well to being called by her first name, and then when the dad walks up, she freaking repeats the mistake and calls him by his first name. Anyway, I just think there was a. I liked her there. I liked her not liking Gwen, because I don't like Gwen. I think that's where she was she was the strongest. Anyway. Well, it's not I don't like Gwen. I think she's unlikable in this film. It's just, I think that's an objective point.
also say that Miguel, Spider-Man 2099. But of course, if we're going to talk about characters, I should also say that Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, I had no idea what to expect, but he's a great villain. He is a great character.
No, he's not. He's, no, I disagree. Like, his character was assassinated. Well, I mean, if it's a great villain, would put pregnant women in harm's way. So that is a great thing to do, if you want to depict a villain. But he wasn't being depicted as a villain at that time. But like, it's all vague. It's all freaking vague about him. And like, his eyes turn red, and then he injects himself with something, and then his eyes turn back to brown or whatever color it was. And it's like, oh, what? Okay, is he like a vampire or a zombie or something like that, or does he have some sort of disease? And I think that's going to be explained in the next film to be like, oh, he's really a good guy. He just had this like infection or whatever, or this disease that made him evil and violent or whatever. But I just um everything like him like he was a one note character. All he was I'm mad. He's just grumpy, angry guy. Like that's it. That's the only, and then violent, like insanely violent. Um and I liked that he wasn't funny. That was the only thing I liked about him, because Peter's funny, Miles is funny, Gwen is kind of funny, but to have a variation of Spider-Man who has a different personality that makes him more of like a stoic, stern character, I did like that. But anyway, let's go into it further.
The contrast between him and Miles and what they each represent is really interesting. His backstory, super tragic, about what I was expecting. He's sort of dark and broody and very Oscar Isaac, so, you know, good stuff there all around. But speaking of villains...
Yeah, I don't like his... I like the idea that him wanting to go into, like, have a family in another universe. Like, I don't know if his family died, though. I don't know if he's just some freaking weirdo who... I don't know if he lost his family. I don't think he did. I think he just saw in another universe that him in another universe had a family and that he died in that universe. So he's like, that they look so happy there. Maybe I'll like replace him. So that means that he's like raising somebody else's daughter and potentially with like... I don't want to be taken down when it comes to word choices, but he is doing wrong things to that other man's wife if he's just stepping in, because she doesn't know that her husband died and this other person is behaving and looking identical and speaking exactly like her husband. So why would she not? So I think it's a really inappropriate situation, and I think that is more villainous than the fact that like the effects of that breaking the universe. I think that it would make more sense that his actions to try to just live in this other universe screws up the universe and kills it, rather than him affecting the canon event. Because let's see, let's continue.
I haven't even really mentioned the Spot. Absolutely amazing.
Okay, we'll talk about the Spot a little later, but like Miguel is a huge problem. And the fact that like him obsessed with anomalies, like and the I guess I'll go into the canon event a little bit, because I think that's what you're talking about when you're saying like his backstory's tragic. So the canon event removes the agency from every character that agrees that they need to withhold the canon and let people die. So for Gwen Stacy, she's just completely okay with her dad's not dead yet. So she's completely okay with her dad dying, right? And she has no impulse to reconciliate her relationship with her dad, who's soon gonna die, even if she's okay with it, which I don't think... The fact that she's okay with it is just bad enough. But she's not even in the universe to be with him during his last days or last years or whenever it's gonna happen. And they probably know when it's gonna happen, because they know when what's his name? Miles's dad is gonna die. But yeah, the fact that every character agrees with it, and what Peter says about what's his name, Uncle Ben, is completely... It's awful. It's tragic that he's like... Like Miles is like, your Uncle Ben died. What if you had a chance to stop it? And he was like, well, Uncle Ben, I wouldn't be here without him, and what happened to him, I wouldn't be who I am today. And so he's saying like, if I knew it would happen with all the context I have now, I would allow it to happen. assassinated. Peter Parker is completely ruined. And I think the entire concept of the canon event ruins everything, because multiverses are interesting because it's like it's another universe where there is a Peter Parker, but he made slightly different decisions, so he wasn't at the right place at the right time, so it bit Gwen instead. Like it's like the butterfly effect. Like maybe he went back and got his phone because he forgot his phone, and that delayed him just ever so slightly, and so he was like ended up being like a foot over, and Gwen was standing under where the spider came down. Like, or like the building that the spider was in, the company got a better offer, and so it was in a different location, so a completely different person got bit. And that's the whole point of the multiverse, is it's like identical universes, but there's slightly different decisions led to different events happening. So but so the canon event, it reduces Peter and his story down to like he's on a train track. It's destiny. All these things are supposed to happen for his story to matter, not that he made specific choices that led to certain events. And so let's actually move on to, before we go to the spot, because I think we're on the same page with the spot, but let's go over to this video because I want to hear your take in this video about Uncle Ben. So let's listen to this.
I'm sorry. Uncle Ben's primary role in any given Spider-Man story is simply to die. His death is the catalyst that causes Peter to realize he's been given a gift, and it's his responsibility to use it to help people. The iconic line,
"With great power comes great responsibility,"
isn't just great because it sounds cool or wise, but because it helps Peter realize that being Spider-Man is less of a choice and more of an obligation. He didn't heed his uncle's advice, and he used his power irresponsibly, and it caused Ben's death. That's why Peter's arc in Spider-Man 2 is so great. It presented the idea that maybe...
Alright, so let's talk about that. It wasn't the fact that Ben died that he came to that realization. It was the fact that he ignored his responsibility to stop a bad person. That's what changed him. Because with the idea of like multiverses being like, maybe in like 100,000 different universes, Uncle Ben dies, right? 100,000 exact same story, Uncle Ben died. And the scenario was slightly different, but it's like he died, and like that led to that happening because those decisions led to that event happening. But do you think Spider-Man would if Uncle Ben ran out of gas, right? Forgot to fill up and ran out of gas and pulled over to pick up gas, which made him slightly delayed to get to a specific place at a specific time. That person, Peter's decision to let that criminal past him and get away with a gun. He had a gun, right? Let a criminal with a gun get away. He needed to get away. And so he would have harmed or killed somebody else to get their car, right? So, and even if he found a car with no one in it and escaped without killing someone, if Peter Parker wouldn't have learned his lesson, so he would have kept making selfish decisions like that. And if you keep making selfish decisions like that and letting bad things happen, then eventually someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get really hurt, and people might potentially die. So the fact that Uncle Ben dies makes it more personal because it's someone that he loves. But do you think, I'm asking you, Sheev, do you think that Peter's reaction to seeing the outcome of letting the criminal go kill a total stranger, do you think that would have no impact if he stepped out of that building and saw people huddling around a big circle and he's like, wait, what's going on over here? And then he looks over and sees like a dead person on the ground, or someone just like in the last moment of their life, just like gasping for air and spitting up blood. and he looks and he's like, he was shot, and he's like, I just let the guy go with a gun. This is my fault. I think Peter Parker would make the same exact decision to change his behavior to never ever do that again. And that's the point. It's not that, and I know that the comic books say that Uncle Ben must die in every iteration of him, but that's stupid because they don't understand. They didn't understand that it's not the fact that he died; it was the fact that the choice led to him dying. So it doesn't have to be him specifically, and it wasn't him specifically in No Way Home. It was Aunt May, and that situation was slightly different. But that situation is actually deeper. That he does the right thing, but his loved one dies anyway. And the lesson is people will die, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to do the right thing. So that's my take on that. That like the fact that Peter Parker in this film thinks if my uncle didn't die, then I wouldn't learn. That's not true. That's not true. Someone with that mindset of like, I'm gonna let this person be robbed by this criminal because this person also kind of screwed me over and didn't pay me properly. Just that personal vindictive thing. When you have the power of Spider-Man and you can stop bad things from happening, but you don't. That's what the MCU Peter says. It's kind of your fault. And that's exactly that. It's so strong. Like his idea of like, if you see bad things happening and you could stop them and you don't, it's your fault. That's true. And you have the power to stop them. That's true. And so, so the canon event says like, no, everything in Spider-Man's life is like destiny. It's like fate. Like all these things are fated to happening. And there's no agency. There's no decisions. There's no, like, and he thinks that there's decisions and lessons learned. But when you all make it hindsight, where it's like, now all the spider people know all the people that are supposed to die, how are they supposed to learn that lesson? How the heck are they supposed to learn that lesson if if it's no longer related to their agency and their decisions that led to that action? What are they learning? They're not learning anything. They're just saying, oh, they're all supposed to die. So it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it ruins Peter Parker. It ruins everyone. It completely demolishes, like, and that's why this movie's not in my headcanon. This movie doesn't exist. Like Peter Parker. Anyway, I'd like to move on. I hope you see this and hear this argument, because I don't think a lot of people are thinking like this. I don't think people are realizing what this film has done to the entire Spider-Man franchise. This is as bad as what they did with Luke, you know? Anyway. All right, let's talk about the spot. The spot was amazing. And they should have focused on the spot. I think what might have happened, and this is just a guess, is they started writing this movie and they had a great idea about the spot, and then Nerderotic tweeted that tweet, and the writers saw it and they got angry and they got offended, and then they pushed all this interesting story stuff. The fact that Miles gets bit by another universe's spider that was set up by the previous movie, because the spider was glitching. That was always the plan. And then also the cool stuff with the spot. Like, they already had a roadmap, and then they shoved all this canon event nonsense into this film. All right.
I was not. I didn't know what to expect from the Spot, to be honest. Again, he was sort of an anomaly with the trailers. They showed a lot of him, but gave very little away. But what they ended up doing with him was super cool. They tied him to Miles in a very interesting way that I wasn't expecting, because they sort of set it up like he considers Miles his nemesis, like a rival, and it sort of played off as a joke at first, because you're like, who are you? Do I know you? Does Miles know you? But like, actually, yeah. No, he is his nemesis, and just the connection that the film interwove between them was very interesting, and I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing how that's rounded out. Bit of a spoiler, I guess. He isn't defeated in this movie. They've set him up to be the villain for the next, and I can't wait to see how they do with that. I can't wait to see what happens. This is something you guys need to understand. I have not been this excited for...
Okay, I'm gonna talk about the... what's it called? I'm gonna talk about the Spot and everything, but also I just saw this shot, so I wanted to comment on this. Miles Morales has invisibility powers. He has invisibility powers. Why is he ever hiding when he runs away? And why does he run away? Why does he run away and then turn invisible and then like as like a misdirection, like turn invisible and then throw something so people think like, oh, he went in that direction, and then turn back, which is kind of what he did, but that he way complicated it by running like half the distance to like, yeah, he just ran so far away, and it was just way too much, where he could have used his invisibility powers to kind of put the spider people exactly where he wanted them. And then also, as he's like running like in the science lab, he could be also be throwing out red herrings as he's invisible, so the spider people were completely confused. But anyway, this screenshot just bothers me so much, the fact that he's hiding behind the spider person when he can turn invisible. All right, but yeah, let's talk about the Spot. Spot is great.
Or a movie or about a movie in a very long time. There have been movies, of course, that I've liked, like a lot, but like not to this extent. And listen.
Okay, so I think I need to go back a little bit. I need to get better at this EFAP style thing. This is my first one, so give me some grace, please. Still learning.
Was very interesting, and I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing how that's rounded out. Bit of a spoiler, I guess. He isn't defeated in this movie. They've said...
Yeah, so my only hope for the third one is that they realize, which I don't think they're going to learn this lesson, because I don't think the right people are saying... I mean, I heard Mahler's take on the canon event, and I feel like I'm on the same page with him, but he has some great insights on it, but my mind was made even before I saw his take on it. And it's just, I really hope that they try to retcon this canon event thing, because if they proceed with it, okay, so, and it's as simple, the fact that it's like, Gwen learns that the captain, her dad, who's the captain, quit his job, and she realizes like, oh, if the captain must die, and my dad quit his job, that means he's not going to die. He's not the captain. So what that means is some other person's going to be captain. Someone else is fated to die just because of their job title. Like, so like, I mean, it's not your dad, but you should probably look out for the captain in your universe. Or try to prevent the captain in your universe from dying. And also her reaction to that is like, oh, now I know how to help Miles with his dad. It's like, dude, you just learned that your dad's not fated to die. Like, she didn't have that big of a reaction. She's just like, oh, I gotta go, Dad, I gotta go. And then, anyway, maybe they hugged in that scene. I don't think that she did. But yeah, she just doesn't care about her dad at all. Like, anyway, she's all concerned about Miles and how Miles feels about it, but it's like, yeah, but what about her? It seems like her mind is made up about her dad, and it's like, is this because that your dad wanted to arrest you? Like, and you're Spider-Woman. who cares if you get arrested? Like, I mean, yeah, maybe that reveals your identity and that changes your story dramatically, which maybe that is a good thing. Um, it's a pretty bad consequence, but yeah, you have to go to jail and you can escape easily. You're a spider person. You could break the handcuffs like right away. Like, yeah, why don't you just get into the car with your dad with the handcuffs on in the back, talk to him or whatever, have a conversation, and then just rip out of the handcuffs and hop out the window. It's too late. Your identity is revealed anyway. Your dad is going to tell everybody that you're a spider person if you're committed, if he's committed to arresting you. So anyway. Okay. All right, let's see. Where were we at? Right, but the back and forth, the relationship between these two characters and the fact that he's learning how to be a villain and he's not so good at it. And Miles is still kind of green too, and they're still trying to figure out how to even fight each other. They're still trying to figure out each other's powers. It's really interesting. But I do think Miles could have used his invisibility powers during the spot fight, because that's actually kind of odd too. Like you can teleport, but I can turn invisible. So like it's kind of evenly matched there. All right.
Set him up to be the villain for the next, and I can't wait to see how they do.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Miles keeps calling him, like, this is where jokes are good. Like he keeps calling him villain of the week. He's like, "Oh, you're just another villain of the week," and he's like, "I'm not." It's like, and he keeps on like diminishing him and saying like, "Oh, you're nothing," and he's like, "No, you mean so much to me, and like I am who I am because of you, and you are who you are because of me. Like our relationship is like really meaningful," but he keeps on like just teasing him and mocking him, not taking the situation seriously, which is a great a character flaw. And I'm not meaning flaw as in like a character mistake. I mean like all characters should have flaws, and it's great that he overlooks him. That's such a good, because that's such a good thing for Miles to do. Yeah, it's everything with Spot. I'm 100% on the same page with you. He's an awesome character. Anyway.
With that, I can't wait to see what happens. This is something you guys need to understand. I have not been this excited for a movie or about a movie in a very long time. There have been movies, of course, that I've liked, like a lot, but like not to this extent. And listen, I never ever expected it to be as good as the first one, so the fact that I don't think it is doesn't really disappoint me, you know? I have heard people say that it's better, and if you believe that, I can understand why. I personally disagree. And again, that's subject to change, maybe. But where it's at right now for me is the first one, 10 out of 10, easy. The second one, I have it around an 8. And I think that's fair. But anyway, that's about all I've got for you guys this time. This, again, was super off the cuff. I typically script these, but I wanted to get my raw thoughts on record before I really digested the film. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you all when I finally get that Flash video done.
All right, well, that's the end of the video. And so yeah, he gave the Spider-Verse film, the first one, Into the Spider-Verse, a 10 out of 10, which I guess I should give my rating. I think that I would probably give Into the Spider-Verse, like, where is it going? Okay, I was afraid that it was going to autoplay. I'd probably give the Spider-Verse film, Into the Spider-Verse, like an 8 out of 10, and I would give Across the Spider-Verse a 1 out of 10. If I could give it a 0, I would. Like, actually, I'll give it a 2 out of 10 just because of the spot and the fact that Miles was bit by another universe's spider. I don't want to say the wrong spider because, like, I don't believe in fate. The other guy didn't get bitten, so it's all about decisions and the decisions that led up to the spider being in a different place. Okay, yeah, and I am, I have little to no hope for the next one. If this one was so bad and everybody's praising it, I think that the third one is going to be even worse when it comes to retconning and ruining the entire Spider-Man franchise. So with that said, definitely shout out to Sheev Talks. He's a really good film critic. I'm subscribed. I recommend anyone that sees this subscribe. And yeah, I would love to see an updated take on the Spider-Verse film from him. I really want to see where his mind is at right now. Anyway, cool. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.